I'm going to tell you what other narcissistic abusive coaches are not going to tell you because they rely on you to come back and depend on them week after week for every single session. I'm going to tell you the truth about what it takes to heal that they're not going to tell you. And that, quite frankly, they don't even teach in their content because they're so focused on the narcissist and not you. Healing narcissistic abuse is a science, okay? It's not just processing emotion. It's not just processing just the trauma and the emotions and crying it out. That's only part of it. It's not even half. It's like a good 20% of it. 80% of healing narcissistic abuse is about identity shifts and then trauma recovery. And trauma recovery, not as in like you're gonna cry, but you're actually gonna re-regulate your nervous system to get out of fight or flight so that you can be able to get into rest and digest, which is where you're out of survival mode and you know how to operate in your life and you feel safe. That with identity shifts, who you become in the process of healing narcissistic abuse. What kind of version of yourself are you going to develop into? When you stop focusing on trauma bond and cognitive dissonance and Googling up how to break a trauma bond, Googling up how do I detach? Detachment comes from you rewiring your identity. You're becoming the person that doesn't tolerate that. You're becoming the person that's no longer attracted to that. You're not crying over somebody that is less than what you deserve. It's the identity. It's in here. It's who you are. Because the reason why you were that version of yourself, the reason why you were anxious attachment, the reason why you were codependent was because that was your identity and your personality and the thoughts that you used to think that was carried from childhood. So when you come out of a narcissistic abusive relationship and you start changing your personality, which is not actually changing, it's who you already are, but underneath trauma wiring. When you can sit there and say, how can I rewire my identity to be somebody that's no longer attracted to that no longer attaches to that kind of man, you will naturally detach from narcissistic abuse. And then 20% of it is, yes, crying over the emotions and processing it. But it's all about who you become. It's all about the identity shift. Trauma recovery and identity shift. This is the kind of work that I do with my clients all the time. We sit here and we rewire their identity so that they can actually be able to detach. Because this is what it really takes. I don't sit here and talk to them about how can we break this trauma bond. I help them rewire themselves to be a version of themselves that's very independent, that trusts themselves, and they can go out into the world and be whole, healed individuals and not have to depend on anybody else but themselves.